Hi and welcome to UC Partner Summit 2022. This year's event theme is Powering Partners, and in this panel discussion, we're going to be discussing creating value with UCaaS and CCaaS. Now, in this session, I'm joined by OnReach and 8x8. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. Thanks.
Hi, Rob. Hi, Russell.
Hi.
Good to see you both. How about we just do a quick round of introductions? Martin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Martin Klaassen, I'm Chief Product Officer at Enreach, and most of you will probably know Enreach. We are a European provider of what we call converged contact solution. That means that we are building converged solution based out of UCaaS Cloud Contact Center and our connectivity portfolio for Europe.
Fantastic. And Russell?
Yeah, hi Rob. So as you've mentioned, Russell Till said from 8x8, and what we do is we're a provider of UC contact center solutions in a SaaS series that we call the X series. Yeah, good to see you.
That's great. Thanks very much. And I suppose by way of an introduction to today's discussion, the UCaaS and CCaaS markets are colliding as more customers demand an integrated system that encompasses both technologies. Now, in this session, we're going to be discussing what this means for you, the channel partner, and how you can shape your value proposition for your target markets for today and in the future. So, to kick things off, I mean, UCaaS and CCaaS is trending. We're seeing this as a really hot topic right now. But what does that mean? What does that mean to the customer? What does the customer actually want nowadays? Do they want a fully integrated solution from vendors, or do they just want the best tool for the job? I mean, Martin, would you like to take that one first?
I would say it's a very good question, but it's not a very easy answer actually, because it depends on the customer segment. What we clearly see in the marketplace is that when you look at the enterprise market, where you have there we typically see dedicated cloud contact center solutions, which are integrated typically to the back office functions. That means basically call center agents needs to route calls towards the back office function. When we go more in the SOHO and SME segment, then what the customer expect is fully converged UCaaS and cloud contact center solutions. So that means there are many customers out there in the SOHO and SME segment who run kind of a cloud contact center, but they are even not aware. Yeah, and this is even what we see in the marketplace. There is that this trend is even accelerated throughout the last 2 years, where we had some struggle with the pandemic. Yeah, so this is what we see at the moment in the market. It depends on the customer segment, but in general, it's about bringing cloud contact center functionality from the high-end enterprise market also into the SOHO and SMB space, and this is what we are doing.
That's great. That's very interesting. Russell, what's your perspective?
I echo Martin's sentiment. It's a great question. I'll try and answer it in a slightly different way, I think. So what we see is we see growth in the UCaaS, we see growth in CCaaS. So the good news is they're both still growing markets, but actually by far we see the strongest growth in the XCaaS market for us. So the sort of, let's call it the blended solution marketplace. So I think I echo Martin's sentiment from what we see. Our customers are telling us it's the total experience that they're now starting to want to try and measure. So that is the front office and the back office, and indeed bringing it back together again. And the pandemic has been a very interesting accelerator for that, right? So there's a problem out there at the moment, in as much as people are telling us they've got more communication solutions than they had pre-pandemic. So and that creates a number of challenges with various sort of different suppliers and managing all of those suppliers and the integration issues that come with. We see a big demand for the blended XCaaS product set.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, there's certainly a lot more interest in UCaaS and CCaaS as a result of the pandemic, and bringing those two together kind of almost does feel like a natural move for a lot of organizations. But you're absolutely right. Both of you could be largely dependent on the type of business you are and the size of business and the complexity of your environment, I suppose.
But when I may basically add on this, it's not only about bringing UCaaS and cloud contact center together. It's also about bringing plain connectivity, for example, mobile services together for the cloud contact center services. So what we clearly see in the marketplace at the moment, that the typical call center agent is more and more on the move. And we need to have solutions where you can embed your mobile phone into cloud contact center queues. And this is what we are doing, especially in the Nordic marketplace.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's an interesting point, isn't it? Because everyone's talking about hybrid work. Work from home almost seems a bit last year, but actually everyone is moving around, right? So they need to be mobile, and I think that is a very key point to this conversation today. I mean, a lot of companies use their UCaaS platform for CX and contact center functionality, as you mentioned earlier, Martin. I mean, what's the best way for partners to help the end customer identify that they need a blended CCaaS approach? I mean, Russell, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, you've got all the traditional questions to ask, right? So, where's the volume sit? What do the interactions look like? And where's the sort of value part of the business? So those are kind of your sort of standard, Q&A. But the other thing we're seeing, and again, this is borne out in surveys that we've conducted with customers. There's a generational divide. Both internally and externally, so inside the organization and outside the organization. And this is around the kind of channels that employees and customers want to use. And you see very clearly that in the sort of boomers and the Gen X generations, the phone call's still very, very important. But we're seeing actually the millennials, it's all about email, and then the Gen Zs, it's the apps. So there's a problem there, because if you're trying to achieve a total experience uplift, then you need to address all of those different those different channels. So there are some questions that we can be asking about the businesses. So it's for our partners, it's their customers. What do they look like? And by the way, what does your organization look like? Are there these different different age groups, and how are you now starting to focus on the needs of the employee and the customer? And that's probably where the next conversations need to come in.
Yeah, that's a really key point as well, isn't it? I mean, because not only did the pandemic accelerate the move to cloud, it almost feels like it's accelerated the move to omnichannel, because everyone wants to now, fully enable all these different digital channels. And you're absolutely right. The persona of the customer really plays into that in terms of which channel they choose. So, yeah, that's interesting. Martin, what do you think?
So I would completely agree with what you said, Russell. You need to look at the end at how many dedicated cloud contact center agents do you have, and you also need to look at the different channels which are necessary to support. I would add that it's very important to have a converged way between the different channels. So at the end, what the end customer is doing out there, he is communicating with a company over different channels, and it's pretty important to have a unified communication stream with all the different channels. And what is very important, and what we see more and more, that you include smart automation. That, for example, you start a communication with a chatbot, and then at some point in time you escalate this communication to a voice call when it is really necessary. So it's clearly that we deal successfully with omnichannel, but it's also very important that we are able to switch between the channels in the way it is relevant for the use case.
Yeah, so I suppose going back to the original question then, looking at your customers, looking at what channels they're using to communicate with their customers is a key kind of, and certainly if you've got a siloed UCaaS platform and you haven't got any of those channels joined up, that's a key trigger or question you should be asking. What are you doing about that? Maybe we should look at kind of bringing that together with CCaaS. Is that fair to say?
So for me, the two main differentiators is number of dedicated agents and number of channels, and how much intelligence and functionality which you need to the different channels.
Yeah, and also, how can we help the customers? So how can we help our partners help the customers with data around this? So, undoubtedly in sizable organizations, they'll need to put a business case together to buy this sort of technology. It's not usually lift and shift anymore, and can we do it a bit cheaper? It's a different type of sell. So again, if we're able to provide data, or you're able to obtain data that says this is what the need looks like, and get that into a business case, that's going to be really helpful as well. Yeah.
Great, thanks for that. So next up, I wanted to talk about horizontal selling, in terms of how to sell is horizontal versus vertical. But let's talk about horizontal first. I mean, more CCaaS solutions are now available for small business, mid-market, and enterprise markets. What advice would you offer partners taking a horizontal sales and marketing approach? Martin, would you want to take that one first?
Yeah, sure. What I believe is that for successfully selling cloud contact center solutions, it's pretty important to understand what do your customer need, because at the end, successful cloud contact center implementation is dependent on that you understand what your end customer is doing, and therefore you need to find the right spot. And this is, in my view, the most important thing.
Russell, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd add to Martin's statements in that the horizontal is probably the most common strategy. So the first obvious thing is to make sure the vendor is aligned to your go-to-market plan, and if we're talking about making sure that the total experience is covered, ensuring that they've got the right product set, roadmap, but also security, all the important back end stuff, tick the right boxes for horizontal. You probably will be trying to hit a wide audience, and so you're probably going to be wanting a wide toolbox for your sales. So it's probably at that stage getting as many different types of competency from the platform.
Got it. And while we're there, I mean, in terms of going over to vertical now, is that a better strategy nowadays? Do you think? What's your view on that?
Well, so again, I'll give you 8x8's experience, because there's no better or worse. But what I have to say though is that we do see faster acceleration in the verticalized markets. So it depends what you define as better. So the growth in our verticals is substantial. A great example of that is public sector, where as an organisation with our partners, we've gone from 0 to 26 NHS trusts in about 18 months. And that's unheard of. And you can only do that if you're talking the right language to the customer, and you have the right sort of tweaks in the products that make it meaningful for the customers. So personally, I'm an advocate of the vertical approach.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Knowing how it can be a tough market otherwise. If you're not. I mean, Martin, what do you think? Vertical selling, is it a good strategy nowadays?
Yeah, as I said, I believe that to sell cloud contact center in a successful way, you need to understand the domain of your end customer, and you can only do this in certain dimensions. And you can do this in your local country, you can do this in your customer segment, and the most successful thing is to do this in your vertical, because then you can explain the customer how to use the product in his domain. And you can probably also build additional solutions, apps on top of the platform, and with this way forward, enhance even the value which you can bring as partner to the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's fascinating what we can do nowadays with CCaaS and UCaaS, and combining the two is very, very powerful, isn't it, as a proposition? I suppose my last question for today is kind of where are we heading? I mean, where is UCaaS and CCaaS heading? You know, the innovation and the pace of innovation, I suppose, and the roadmaps from vendors like yourselves is huge, very impressive nowadays. So, Martin, do you want to take this one first in terms of our reach? You know, how do you see the market, developing going forward?
So we see clearly three different things there, three different trends there. And the first one is that we are going away from the silos, and it was even part of the title of this interview today. So what we clearly see is the convergence and also the automation of the different channels which are used there. That means starting an interaction with a, for example, chat channel, and then basically escalating this to a voice or even video call. So this is one trend. The second thing which we see is including mobility. We need to be able to support mobile workforces out there to plug in mobile phones into cloud contact center queues. This needs to be possible because the way we work together has completely changed in the last years. And the third one, and basically Russell also touched base on this earlier, is clearly data. Using data, using artificial intelligence based on this data to improve customer experience is crucial. But not only the so-called metadata, so which kind of calls, which we have done, also the voice communication. We are able to take the voice communication, transcript this, and also store the relevant information in the CRM system, and to enhance the customer experience. So with this way of dealing in a smart way with data. These are the three trends in my view.
That's great. Thanks for that. And Russell, what's your view? I mean, this XCaaS is almost kind of synonymous with 8x8 nowadays. You know, large investment in UCaaS and CCaaS coming together. You know, how do you see the market kind of playing out?
Yeah, so agree with the 3 points. You know, on the third point there, there's a great sort of, if you expand on that, we have these new tools now, the likes of conversational AI, and what that means is that the stuff that you used to be able to do as a contact center agent, those tools, the secret sauce is now available for the more common sort of user, the UC user. So, you know, wouldn't it be great if we could get sort of a sentiment sweep across the whole business? So that's one of the, I'm going to try and bring this from 3 to 5. So that's number 4. But then also just giving customers the ability to develop their own edge and USPs with the technology. So I guess control of one's own destiny. And again, that's the kind of thing you can append with the CPaaS. So that gives us 5 pretty good forward-looking bullets.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned CPaaS. I mean, we haven't really talked about that today, but that seems to be almost like another key component of this kind of UCaaS, CCaaS stack, if you will, which can be especially useful in customizing solutions for customers. So I think that can potentially create a lot of value. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And then, you know, we have, you know, there are customers in health now that are starting to do virtual scrub-ins. And, you know, I could name one particularly that's an 8x8 customer. But what they do is we're using the CPaaS to actually measure the tools that they're using and making sure that they're optimized. So the good news is we're starting to find use cases for these types of technologies where we just wouldn't have even thought about it to start off with. So I think we're really getting to the next stage of how this technology is going to be used by organizations. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah, as you say, endless possibilities. Well, Martin, Russell, superb talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives.
Thanks very much, Rob. Thanks, Martin.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Russell, bye-bye.
Take care. Yeah. Bye now.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. However, if you're interested in finding out more, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter with the Powering Partners hashtag and dive into all the content at the UC Partners Summit. I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.